Good evening, everyone. I hope everybody is good today and in a healthy mood as well. And last time we discussed about the demand and what are the factors or the variables that make a shift in demand and make a movement along the demand curve. So we said there are five variables that shift the demand left or to the right side. Income is the first variable. Price of related goods, which is substitute and complement goods that makes shift to the left or right for certain reason. Taste is another variable that makes the demand shift left side. Expectations and the number of the buyers as the fifth variable that makes the demand curve shift to the right or left. So there are some examples are given in here that shift the demand curve, like 2 ways to reduce the quantity of smoking demanded. So what is the best way to stop this? First, shift the demand curve for the cigarettes and other tobacco products. So the way that we need to affect it and try to raise the price of the cigarette, that will help you to affect the demand curve, to reduce it. That will make the demand curve shift to the left or right side in the way that you want it. Like I can give you an example. In Turkey, frequently it is applied that according to statistics, like around 80% of the people are smoking in Turkey. And the government is trying to reduce the number of the smokers by increasing the prices for the cigarettes. They're increasing the price of the cigarettes. So, okay, just skip this part.
Sorry, Professor, can you share the screen?
Oh, I'm very, very sorry. I'm very sorry that I didn't.
Okay.
Just thank you for reminding me. I'm so selfish. Okay, now. So shift the demand curve for cigarettes and other tobacco products. So public service announcements, mandatory health warning on cigarettes packages, prohibition of the cigarette advertising on the television, prohibition like that it took the place in Kazakhstan. They were saying you cannot smoke inside of the building, you cannot smoke everywhere you think that you want. There's specific places dedicated for the smoking, like smoking area and so on. So if everything goes successfully, that shift the demand curve to the left, so it reduces. So try to raise the price of the cigarettes as it was in Turkey. So the tax on the manufacturer, the higher the price, that movement along the demand curve. So 10% increase in the price, that reduced the 4% in smoking. So teenagers increased 10% in price, reduced the 12% in smoking. But it works for years, but in Turkey it reacted differently. So from country to country it changes. We cannot say that increasing the price that will shift the demand for cigarettes as well. So sometimes it may work, sometimes it may be opposite. Demand for cigarettes or versus demand for marijuana appear to be complements in some countries. So if warnings on the cigarette packages convince the smokers to smoke less, so demand curve for the cigarette shift to the left, which is shown on the diagram A here. We can see it from the blue line to the red line, from A to B. We can see it moves from D1 to D2. At price of $2 per pack, the quantity demand falls from 20 to 10 cigarettes per day. So as reflected in the shift point A to point B. So we can see from here to here. And if it compares, if the tax raises, the price of the cigarette demand curve does not shift. Instead, we observe the movement along the demand curve, so which is shown in the panel B. So when the price rises from 2 to 4, the quantity demanded falls from 20 to 12 cigarettes per day. So as reflected by the movement from point A to C in the panel B. And now the turn came to talk about the supply. So we know that 5 factors that shift the demand. One more time to review it before we move it. Income, price of related goods, which is substitute and the complement, taste, expectation, number of the buyers. These things you should keep in your mind. So when it comes to the supply, quantity supply is the amount of the goods that the sellers are willing and able to sell it at specific price. So law of supply says that ceteris and paribus, or other things equal, when the price of the good increases, the quantity supplied of goods also goes up. So when price falls, the quantity supplied will fall down because the sellers will be demotivated to sell something at lower price. The relationship between the price of good and the quantity supplied it is shown in the table and the graph, which is given in the next slide. So the price, or let us move it directly. So the price is on the y-axis, which is vertical axis, and the quantity is on the x-axis or horizontal axis. This is table or schedule, supply schedule, and this is supply curve or a graph that represents the supply curve. So the supply schedule shows that the quantity supplied at each price, and the supply curve which graphs that supply schedule. So they're the same number. So this schedule is graphed on this diagram. You can see it. So as the price goes up, the quantity increases. It's having the upward sloping supply curve. But when it comes to the demand, it's just downward sloping. It has got the opposite relationship between the price and the quantity demanded or quantity. So because the higher the price increases the quantity supplied, the supply curve slopes upwards. This is the main reason, okay? Because the sellers, if you put yourself into the shoes of the sellers, you will be willing to sell more if the price goes up, because the more you sell for price, higher price, the more profit you get it from it. Because as a seller, you're concerned about money. You're concerned about the profit, to make more money, to make more profit. So market supply, it shows the sum of the supplies of the sellers for good services. Market supply curve is the sum of individual supply curves, which is added horizontally. So we can see here, like Ben and Jerry, like individual suppliers, but all together they represent the market. So quantity supplied in the market is summation of quantity supplied by all sellers at each price, and the market supply curve is found by adding horizontal individual supply curves. At price of $2, Ben supplies 3 ice cream cones, and Jerry supplies 4 ice cream cones. The quantity supplied in the market at this price is equal to 7 quantity, which is this slide. So graphical representation, it was just supply schedule, but let's say how it's graphically represented. We can see that the Ben supply is upward sloping, Jerry supply is upward sloping as well. And addition of these 2 supplies will give you the market supply on here. So shifts in supply. Increasing the supply is any change in that increase the quantity supplied at every price that makes the supply curve shift to the right. Decreasing the supply, any change that decreases the quantity supplied at every price, supply curve shifts left. So the example in here, increasing the supply, right shift, decreasing the supply, left shift. So there are 4 variables that makes the supply curve shift to the right or left. That makes shift. So first is input prices, technology, expectation about the future and the number of the sellers. So when we talk about the input prices, supply is negatively related to the price of the inputs, but before just giving an explanation of the how it gives the negative effect, we need to define what is the input prices then. So input prices are the cost or the inputs, the raw materials that you use it to produce something. If the price of the raw materials increases, that will increase the supply cost of something. So to produce something, that it will cost you a lot to produce a small thing. So you cannot easily increase the price on a specific product while you're selling it, because you want to sell a certain number of the quantity, but you cannot increase the number of the units, and you cannot increase the price because of the demand, because you're not the one who determines the price. You're in a competitive market. So that's why supply is negatively related to the price of inputs. So higher the input prices, decrease the supply. And another variable that affects its technological advancement. So advancement in technology that has got the positive relationship, that positive effect on the supply. Any advancement in technology that helps you to produce more units. Like you used to work in 2000 years ago to produce, like if you compare now the car manufacturer, which is in Kostanay. Is there anyone in the class who is from Kostanay?
Yes.
Okay, I have been there for many times. Like I've been involved in several projects with a car manufacturer company, Agromash Holding and so on. I saw how they produce the cars. I saw how they paint the cars. Everything done automatically, everything done by robots. The human does not involve in production. So before, if you put it like centuries ago back, you could have realized that the cars used to produce by human manually. So if they used to produce car, let's say 30 cars per month, but with a robot, they can produce 300 cars. And it's really noticeable, it's obvious that technological advancement helps you to increase the quantity of production in every business, in every field. Take the case of the accounting system. If you're working as, I used to work as an accountant, like in 2000 years, I was really putting all the numbers manually, like recording all the stuff by hand. But when we moved to after like 5-6 years later, when the computer started to be normal among the people, when the computer system used to come with the accounting system, that helped a lot. You don't have to enter everything manually, and you don't have to search everything manually. Then if one accounting, if for the one firm was like, the firm was hiring like 2 or 3 accountants to keep recording all the activities or transaction that the company has been involved in. But now with a computer, okay, the same company with the same capacity of the company will be able to afford just one human who will be able to use that computer. That's it. There is no need to hire 3 or 2. So reduction the number of the, so it helps you to save the cost and increase the number of the production, the advancement in technology. When it comes to about the expectation about the future, so affect the current supply. If you expected that there will be higher prices, you will reduce the current supply. Just give me a second. Okay, how it works, let me give an example. Imagine there is a supermarket, and the supermarket gets a notification that the price of the cigarettes will rise after 2 weeks. So what happens in reality in the market, this supermarket, just takes away from the shelves all the cigarettes. When the date comes, they put back just an example, they put back the cigarettes or all the other products into the shelf. So that's it. So to act in this way. Or if they know that because why I sell at $5 now, where I can sell it at $10 later. So supply in the future will increase, but now it will go down. And the last one, the number of the sellers increases. The number of the sellers increases. the number of the seller increases. The market supply increases. Example, I can give you iPhone or Samsung. You can see that every day new shops are being opened, selling the iPhones. Or before I was using the Instagram, I never saw that textile advertisement from Turkey, like somebody is bringing the t-shirts and shirts and so on from Turkey and sell it. But now it's very like unbelievable. Many people, they started to bring from Turkey and sell it. So they found it easier to bring it and sell it from Turkey, because the China border is closed, but the Turkey is open. Now everybody moved to Turkey. Now everybody selling. So the number of the sellers of this textile from Turkey increased. That increases supply of the clothes. Okay. So this is the example I can give you. And there are many examples as well, like masks. They're very demandable now. And just summary again, the price as it was in demand, it does not shift the supply. It just make movement along the supply curve. But other four variables that affect its input price, technology, expectation, and number of the sellers. Okay, this is how it affects. Input price, we said it is all about the raw materials. If the price of the raw materials increases, that you will see the shift of the supply curve to the left, which means the supply curve will be reduced. Technological advancement affects the positively supply. So let me put just small plus minus positive sign. So if you want to remember which variable affects in what way, that will help you to remember, to memorize better. Okay, like this is negative, this is positive. Okay, if you expect the prices will increase in the future, the supply curve now will reduce. So there's an inverse relationship. And the number of the sellers, as the number of sellers increase, that shift the supply curve to the right. So positive. So decrease in the price or increase in the price will shift left. Increase in technological advancement will shift supply right. Increase in the price of inputs to produce something, shift supply curve left, and so on. That's where you can remember and memorize it. Any questions you want to ask? Okay. Okay, we know some variables that shift the supply and the other variables shift the demand. But what is the best point where the demand and supply? We know that the best thing for the supply, the higher the price, the better they are in position. For demand, the lower the price, the better the demand, the buyers. So what is the best point where they can meet? The best point where they're satisfied is called equilibrium, where it's called that various forces are in balance, is the situation in which the market price has reached its level where the quantity supplied is equal to quantity demanded, which means that the sellers and buyers are satisfied in this point. So supply and demand curve intersects at this point. So equilibrium price is the balance is quantity supplied and quantity demanded, where the market clearing price. Equilibrium quantity is the quantity supplied and quantity demanded are at the equilibrium price. So graphically, it looks like this. So this is the point where the demand and supply are satisfied, both. So this is the point, is the best point that can be achieved ever in the competitive market. And it is achieved by mutual agreement, and both supply and the sellers, supply and demand sides are satisfied. So equilibrium find where the supply and demand curve intersect. So we can see the intersection of demand and supply curve. At the equilibrium price and the quantity supplied equals the quantity demanded. So quantity supplied is 7, quantity demanded is 7. We can see it. And the price is 2. if there is a situation that quantity supplied is more than quantity demanded, this situation is called a surplus. It shows that there is more supply than demand. So there are many things are being sold, but less demand. So the surplus, which is called a surplus, that creates a pressure on the price. So the price will go down. So movement along the demand and supply curves. That will increase the quantity demanded and reduce the quantity demand supplied. It will do it until they reach equilibrium point. However, the opposite happens, shortage, when the quantity demanded is more than the quantity supplied. Do you remember what happened in June in here about the medicine in the pharmacy, that there was a shortage of supply? Shortage of supply, there was a quantity demanded are more. So people demanded a lot medicine, however, the medicine was not enough. Till the government supplied a new medicine. So the quantity demanded was not enough that time. So there was a huge demand, there is shortage. And so that shortage made a pressure on certain medicine price to go up. So there was a movement along the demand and supply curve. That reduced the quantity demanded and increased the quantity supply at the end. So it's illustrated in here. This is the point where the surplus takes the place, and this is the point where the shortage takes the place. So at $2.5, the suppliers are willing to sell 10 number of units. However, at $2.5, demand says, no, we are not ready to buy 10 units, but at this price, we will be able to buy only 4 units. It's not the right time to ask such question. You have to wait until we finish the class. It will be a kind of surprise to you, whether I have activity or not. I'm not gonna tell you. Okay. Surplus, we said that people, or in other words, the sellers are really willing to sell more than there is a demand at certain price. So this, we can see that the people are less willing to buy something. So because they have got a lot in their hands and they want to sell it, so they have to reduce the price. So that forces price to go down until it reaches its equilibrium, this point. So when it reaches this point where the demand and supply is equal, intersect, and quantity supplied and quantity demanded equal, and the sellers and the buyers are satisfied. So when there is a surplus, the price put down pressure, it gets to the equilibrium back. However, there is a situation when there is a shortage, of the products, that the products are not available in the market or anything else. Like when I used to live in Cyprus, there was a case, we had a problem with the potatoes, okay? It was one day we woke up and we couldn't find any potatoes in the market. So for 1 week, we couldn't find it. So even the potato was not really such product or such food that you cannot survive with it, but people, as they used to buy these potatoes every day, and when they realized there is no potato, and the potato was maybe 200 tenge, potato was 200 tenge, I'm just directly converting the general price. Let me just write it down to show you. Initially, it was 200 tenge, but later, when the number of the quantity of the potato were not available in the market, and maybe myself, I walked maybe 4 markets, I couldn't find it, like 4 shopping markets, I couldn't find it. Then I just, whenever I entered the 5th market, I was able to find the potatoes there, and the potato was 250 tenge that time. So they increased the price. even this price made me to buy a lot, even the amount that I really don't need it. I just bought it more than I needed, just to pay. And these actions, like more demand than the supply, there was a shortage of supply. That made the supply to increase with the increase in the price. So that put the pressure to increase the price till it reached its equilibrium. The equilibrium was $2 here. The equilibrium reached at $2. So surplus, when there is a surplus, more supply and less demand, the forces put the pressure on the price downwards. When there is a shortage, the forces put pressure upward. Supply and demand together, law of supply and demand. The price of any good adjusts to bring the quantity supplied and the quantity demanded for that good into balance, which is called equilibrium. In most markets, the surplus and shortages are temporary in the short run, but later in the long run, they become satisfied and it gets into balance. Three steps to analyze the changes in equilibrium. So first of all, decide whether the event shifts the supply curve and demand curve, or some cases in both curves. Second, decide whether the curve shifts to the right or left. And the third, use the supply and demand diagram, compare the initial and the new equilibrium. So to see the effects on equilibrium price and the quantity. So decide whether event shifts the demand. So three steps that we should remember. Table 3, we're gonna see it in the now. Imagine there's one summer, very hot weather, an effect on the market for ice cream. Hot weather shift the demand curves to the right, and for the water as well, and for other things as well. Demand curve shift to the right, higher equilibrium price and higher equilibrium quantity. Here's an example. Imagine this was the initial equilibrium. Then the hot weather comes, and now you want to get some ice cream and water. So demand for ice cream and for water make a shift to the right. So this hot weather affects that shift to the right. So the D1 to D2. That increase the quantity equilibrium and increase equilibrium price. From 2 to 2.5, and from 7 to 10. And this can be same for any types of products, any types of goods. Like I can give you the example of what you say it's quantity demand for the flats in Almaty. If you expect that the price for flat will increase in the near future, your reaction will be straightforward. You will start buying the flat now. So demand for flat will increase. The demand in real estate will increase now in order to get benefit in the future, like expectation variable. So shift versus movements along the curve. So shift in the supply curve that makes the changes in supply, and movement along the fixed supply curve, change in the quantity supply. Shift in the demand curve makes a change in the demand itself, and the movement along the fixed demand curve makes a change in the quantity demanded. So a change in the market equilibrium due to the shift in the supply. So one summer, a hurricane destroys a part of the sugar cane crop. That, of course, then you end up with a higher price for the sugar. The effect of the market for ice cream then. What's going to happen to the ice cream guys? And first, what's going to happen? Change the price of the sugar, supply curve shift to the left. Higher equilibrium price and lower the equilibrium quantity. Because sugar, it is the input price for ice cream. Sorry, input as a raw material. As the sugar price goes up, it means the ice cream that you used to produce before, now you will produce less. So this is how it's illustrated in here. Initial equilibrium was here, S1, and demand. When the sugar price increases, that shifts the supply curve to the left, as you can see here, from S1 to S2. And the new equilibrium is here. So in here, we can see that quantity supplied drops from 7 to 4, and price equilibrium jumps from 2 to 0.5. So, but now, why we are studying this effect? We want to see how the quantity supply changes and how the quantity demanded changes. And now we would, if one changes, like if changes happen only in supply or changes happen in only demand. But what happens if the changes happen in both demand and supply? What will happen then? One summer, hurricane and the heat wave shift the demand curve. Huge hurricane shift the supply curve. So demand curve shifts to the right and supply curve shift to the left. Equilibrium prices raises. If the demand increases substantially while supply just falls just a little, the equilibrium quantity rises as well. But if the supply falls substantially and the while demand rises just for a little, the equilibrium quantity falls. So it depends by how much it will change. But that change, the amount of the change will depend on the elasticity. It's another topic that we will study next week. We'll start studying, it's important, by the amount the supply changes, by the amount of the demand changes. So here, this is the first case. When, let me put it like this. Okay. This is demand and supply. This is equilibrium, okay, initial equilibrium. Summer comes. Hot weather, ice cream, we know that demand curve will shift to the right. Sorry, let's talk about the supply because they're starting with the supply. Okay, if the hurricane takes the place, that destroys the sugar corn, and the sugar price will jump up. And we know the sugar is the input for the ice cream, and of course that will reduce the supply curve to the left. So we can see the supply curve goes to the left from S1 to S2, and there is a small decrease in the supply. Okay, here. Initially, this is the point where if the demand doesn't change, this is the point where the quantity equilibrium, we can see it here, and the price is here. So the quantity will be reduced and the price will jump up. However, the demand will go up. As the demand goes up, shift to the right, that will increase. There is a huge increase in the demand that shifts from D1 to D2, and we can see a new equilibrium. This is the point. So that huge increase makes the price go even further, but the quantity to increase. But if it was the vice versa, like huge increase in huge decrease in supply and small increase in demand, then the quantity would not increase, but it would fall in general, but the price still go up. So for certainly, you should remember that the price will go up when there is a decrease in supply and increase in demand. But the quantity might change and might not change. Might change and might not remain the same. It depends on the elasticity, on the amount by which supply and the demand changes. Second table, it just shows what we discussed now. Supply, there's a huge change, reduction in supply from S1 to S2, but small change in demand. As you can see here. If there was a proportional change, like what I mean here, let me just illustrate, okay? I'm gonna open it. Okay. Okay, just I'm gonna illustrate to you. Proportional change. If demand and supply change proportionally, okay? S1, S0, and the demand, the initial equilibrium was this, okay? This is the initial equilibrium. This is the shift of supply. But if proportionally demand and the supply changes, D0, sorry for my handwriting, but I want to illustrate something here very important. That for sure you should remember that if supply shift left and demand right, the price will go up. However, the quantity might change and might be same. It depends on the amount by which supply and demand will change. If there is a proportional change, you can see that the quantity doesn't change. If supply changes by more than demand, then the quantity will fall. If vice versa, the quantity will increase, okay? And so on. Okay, am I recording? Yes, I am recording. So this is kind of summary what we have done about the changes. No change in supply, an increase in supply, decrease. So this will help you. But the best thing, you should be able to draw it. Any situation that you are given. You should be able to draw it, any situation that you are given. That will let you to understand better. Because maybe in multiple choices, you will see the question, what if supply increases and demand decreases? And what will be the changes in equilibrium? And there will be some alternatives given. So for you to be able to answer, you have to know what happens. Okay. So the prices actually generally signals the guide the allocation of resources, the mechanics of the for ration scarce resources, determine who produced each good and how much is produced. And there are many examples that can be given. This is actually all for this chapter, but I don't want you to go, but wait, I'm going to share something with you more. Okay. I want you just go over this quick multiple choice. Now, on your paper, just go it and do it. And then you can leave the conference. Do this multiple choice. But before starting this, I want to ask whether do you have any questions or not?
No, thanks. So we need to do multiple choice in our notebook or something?
No, on your paper.
Okay.
Next class, when we meet, I'm going to give you the activity in the Moodle. You will do it in the Moodle. And please, guys, make sure that your Moodle is working. Because for third activity, I'm not going to accept any emails. Okay? Third activity will not be accepted any emails. So make sure before we meet, you arrange everything with Moodle.
So now there is no need to submit our answers.
No, no, you need to just practice on your own now. When you finish it, just let me know.
Okay.
And on Thursday, we will have activity and then the quiz, yes?
Not the quiz. On Thursday, we don't have any quiz. On the Thursday, I'm gonna tell you when we have the quiz, when we have the first assessment.
Okay, sure, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, do it now, and you're free to go.
А квиз у нас когда будет? Я тоже не знаю, вот.
The quiz is not available yet. On Thursday, we're gonna discuss. Most probably, we're gonna have it on 8th of October. Tomorrow, on Thursday, I'm gonna tell you.
Ребят, вот у нас есть WhatsApp-группа? Do we have a WhatsApp group?
Guys, if
Да.
you have, please add her to the WhatsApp group.
Please add me. Here
Yeah.
I write my name, please. Or send me a WhatsApp link, please. I'm sorry, now we are doing activity, yes?
You're doing this quick check multiple choice. Once you finish it, you can leave. It's not graded now, but it's gonna be graded on Thursday.
So I think why I can't find this model.
No, it's not available in the Moodle now. You are just doing by your own. You're trying to get the questions better. Sorry, can you ask again the question? I didn't hear you.
Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
If I finish, can I leave?
Yes, if you finish, you can leave. No problem.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
See you.
Okay, bye, Professor. See you.
Take care. Bye.
Mr. Fazulayev, what about the attendance?
Your attendance is done when you're here already in the class. I'm not
Thank you.
giving any points for attendance. I'm giving points for activity only.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Professor. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Professor. Goodbye.
See you.